Brothers, let's take a moment to reflect on the seismic shifts we've endured. In the 1940s, we were molded in the heat of World War II and cast as breadwinners, protectors, and cornerstones of family and community. We were expected to be strong, unyielding, and yet responsible, the epitome of traditional masculinity. Back then, there was a clear understanding of what it meant to be a man. But fast forward to now, and what are we left with? A downright identity crisis. We've gone from revered to reviled, from celebrated to scrutinized. Society has taken a buzzword like toxic masculinity and hung it around our necks like a millstone. We're now stuck in an ideological straitjacket, constrained by an ever-expanding rulebook of what we can and cannot do, say, or even think. Want to be sensitive? Be careful, you might be deemed weak. Want to take charge? Watch out, you might be labeled domineering. The irony is glaring. In the drive for equality and liberation, we've been shoved into a corner. In a world that preaches about dismantling hierarchies, a new one has been set up, with us at the bottom. Our masculinity has been disassembled, examined under a microscope, and then haphazardly put back together by people who often don't have the first clue about the lived experiences of men, especially those of us grinding it out day in and day out in unforgiving jobs and circumstances. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the women's movements and sexual liberation movements of the 1960s and 1970s. Although their aims were honorable, they've also splintered the male identity into a plethora of manufactured categories and subcategories, effectively dividing us and making us more susceptible to control and manipulation. And let's not forget how women have weaponized shame and ostracization to control our everyday behaviors. Step out of line, and you risk public humiliation, or worse. Don't get me wrong, no one is saying that the intents behind these movements were without merit. But we've got to question the extent to which their strategies and their radicalized modern forms are undercutting us as men. In their fight for liberation, have they cornered us into a psychological prison? In academia, the academic world is playing a different game altogether. They're not just armchair critics. They're crafting narratives, shaping social policies, and creating a climate where men, especially those who don't conform to the new normal, are set up for failure. We're not even pawns in their game. We're expendable pieces, easily sacrificed for the sake of someone else's ideology. Fellas, we're in a bind. We're navigating a labyrinth built by ideologues who seem to have forgotten that we too are human beings, shaped by both biology and culture. Our energies, our drives, and our aspirations are not things to be stifled. They're integral parts of who we are. So let's make something clear: we will not be reduced to caricatures. We will not be defined by someone else's narrow-mindedness. Let's reclaim places of power in the complex, ever-changing landscape that is modern society. Time to break free from the shackles of manufactured sexual identities and crippling social politics. Let's write our own rules, create our own definitions, and most importantly, let's stick together. United we stand, divided we fall. Keep that in mind.
Smoky haze now hides the hill where once we walked and knew the thrill of a spring we thought could never bring such an early autumn. The murmur of forgotten sighs still echo on October sky. This vanished spring has taught my heart to sing of an early autumn. Curled leaves are blown astray, like withered dreams they drift away. I only hope some spring may bring vanished spring has taught
Much obliged you hopped on board for this snazzy trip through American life in the 1940s and 1950s, all captured through nifty vintage photographs. If this flick's got your motor running, don't be a square. Click on that jolly bucket of bolts to subscribe to the channel for more top drawer content just like this.
the